Throughout this course, we'll show how we implemented an application for the customers of a travel agency. Also, all the examples provided will deal with its development. But first, let's take a look at the application already in operation. We open GeneXus, press F5, and see that the web browser opens with the initial screen of the application. In the upper section, there's the agency's logo, and in the gray section, a bar with quick access buttons to the attraction's data. The center of the page has large buttons that give access to the different parts of the application to view information on cruises, flights, tour packages, and attractions. If we click on this last button, we access a page where we can navigate horizontally among the most popular attractions. For each attraction, we see its image, location, rating, and a button to schedule a visit. Further down the page, we see another list with all the attractions to visit. Here we can also move horizontally, and for each attraction, we see its country, rating, and buttons to book a visit. If we click on a popular attraction, such as the Louvre, a page opens with the details of the attraction containing a brief description with representative images. There's also a submenu, which in addition to this general data, marked with About, gives access to other attraction data, such as addresses, dates of visits, and prices. Selecting addresses shows the street where the Louvre Museum is located, its zip code, city, and country. It also shows the subway lines and stops, and the bus lines to access the museum. Further down, there's a map showing the precise location of the entrance. Clicking on the Attractions button on the top bar will take us back to the list of attractions. And by clicking on Home, we return to the initial screen. In the following videos, we'll see how to complete these functionalities. At first, we won't pay much attention to appearance aspects such as colors, button shapes, and font styles, because we'll focus on the development of what the application has to do and its logic. Once this is done, we'll see how to import into our application the appearance definitions made by a design professional who will help us achieve the desired look and feel. Let's go back to GeneXus and start developing the application we saw. First, we create a KB called Travel Agency Angular Course. Now, we import the data model with all the transactions that we'll use, to which we've already applied the work with for web pattern, so we'll have the back office of the travel agency application available. This web back office, previously made, was imported to be used as is, for its implementation is not part of the course's objectives. In this course, we'll be developing the web front end oriented at customer-facing in Angular. Let's go to Knowledge Manager, Import, and select the file travelagency.backoffice.xpz. This XPZ file also contains data providers for data loading, so when we run it, the database will be created, and its tables will already contain data. First, let's select the Home web panel as the startup object, and press F5 to become familiar with the travel agency entities while running the application's back office. In this Home web panel, we see a link to each entity. If we go to the countries, we see that several countries are loaded, each one with its cities. If we go to the tourist attractions, we see which attraction belongs to a country and a city, including the detailed information about the attraction. If we go back to Home, we can browse the other travel agency data. If you have any doubts about transaction objects, the work with pattern, or data providers, we suggest you review these concepts in the Genexus core course. Let's return to Genexus and start implementing the first screen of the application. The travel agency has asked us to build a panel that shows a horizontal list of the available attractions. When we select one, the details of the attraction should be displayed. For that, we create a panel object and we name it view_attractions. We drag a grid to the form and select the attributes attraction ID, attraction name, attraction photo, city name, and country name. Let's go to the panel properties and set it as main object. Now in the Knowledge Base Navigator, we double-click on .NET Environment, select Front End, and go to its properties. We set Generate Angular to True, and then Generate Android and Generate Apple to False. Note that the main platform property is now set to Angular. Before generating our application in Angular, we must install some applications. We can see this if we go to the wiki and search for. We see that we have to install Node.js from the nodejs.org page. Here we download and install the LTS version. I've already done it on my machine. Once installed, to check the version, we open a command window and type node -v. Then we have to install an npm package manager client, but since we already have node.js installed, it's already included. To confirm that it's been correctly installed, we type npm -v. Now we have everything ready to build and run our application in Angular. We go back to Genexus, open the View Attractions panel, right-click, and select Run. A command window opens, and several lines written by the Angular generator are executed. When finished, the web browser opens automatically, and we see a list of tourist attractions. We already have our first Angular application running. Looking at the URL, we see that it was run on localhost, a colon, and a dynamically assigned port. This corresponds to the web server instantiated to run the Angular application. The application executed is View Attractions Level Detail, which corresponds to the attractions grid included in the panel. If we go back to Genexus and look at the navigation list, we see that the View Attractions panel contains a node called Level Detail Grid 1 and has the symbol of a data provider. By clicking on it, we see it's the navigation list of the data provider View Attractions Level Detail Grid 1, which is responsible for accessing the database and retrieving the information of the tourist attractions. Where it says levels, we find a for each attraction, because as our grid had attributes, Genexus found a base table and created an implicit for each to access the data in the database. The attraction table was effectively navigated to retrieve the attraction data, and then the country table was accessed to retrieve the country name, and the country city table to get the city name. Later, we'll see what Genexus takes into account to determine the base table of the grid, and how the information is loaded through the data provider whose navigation list we're looking at. Now let's analyze what Genexus generates when the Angular generator is executed. If we go to Tools, Explore Target Environment, and then go to Mobile, Angular, we find a View Attractions folder. This is because it's the main object that we executed. If we now select src/app, we see the parts that make up the application. By clicking on View Attractions, we see the parts that include the Angular component, which are 3 files. The file ending in component.html contains the definition of the application's user interface, and is an Angular template that represents the panel layout. Also included here are elements that Angular interprets to associate on-screen controls with data in the database. Then we have the file ending in component.ts, which is a TypeScript file where the logic of the panel we implemented is defined. This is where the events and the status of the screen controls are defined. Lastly, we have the file ending in service.ts, which is responsible for interacting with the web server services. Here is where communications with REST services take place. Data is obtained from the database, and the data structures to be used by the panel are generated. If we go back to the attraction screen, we see a grid showing the attraction data in a top-down list, which is the default mode. Next, we'll see how to change the display so as to page to the right, and other screen controls that will allow us to build the application with a more attractive user interface.